After working for a number of years, you start to think about, okay, you have X amount of money sitting in the bank. What do I want to do with it? So then you talk to friends and then they say, hey, why don't you look at avenues to create passive incomes? So then I started to look at the options and realized that properties is probably the one that I'm comfortable with. So I've started to look at what are the ways and how to do investing in property. Hi, my name is Evelyn. I work in the public service sector. I'm originally from Malaysia, came to Australia as an international student, and since then fallen in love with the country and decided to stay here. So I think I was with, just like any other people, spend the weekends driving around different suburbs looking at property. So I would say I've spent close to 3 to 4 years looking at it, but never really make the decisions to jump into it because I was just too afraid of making a big, costly mistakes. Then after that, I realized getting really confused, not sure if I should go for apartments, land or property, should I go for a brand new or an existing one. So after a while, I start to realize maybe it's a better idea to get a professional to guide me through the process, someone who could help me out. At the beginning, I think I came to understand there's the concept of buyer's agent that represents the buyers. But at that time, I realized that there is certain fees that you will have to pay to engage their service. And at that time, I felt it was quite expensive fees. And I came across this buyer's agents where not charging a single cent, but could help you through that process. But I quickly realized that when you engage the buyers where you aren't paying for their service, they aren't really working towards having your best interest in mind during that process. So long story short, that buyer's agent was introducing me to those brand new land and packages in a area that is pretty remote. And I'm glad I didn't proceed with that because I found out that it wasn't actually doing very well. Anyway, yeah, so that kind of tells, working with someone who has your best interest in mind, it's crucial. So that's how I started to look at other buyer's agents, and that's how I came to know Get Rare Properties through the LinkedIn. Yeah. Well, I would say 10 out of 10. As it is, I've recommended 2 of my friends to Get Rare, so that tells a lot of how satisfied I am with the whole experience with Get Rare. When I first started, of course, as a first-time investor, inexperienced, don't know what to do, very confused, and there's lack of clarity, as well as, we're professional, working 9 to 5, 5 days a week, so we're time poor. I think having Rusty from Get Rare from the get-go was really assuring with his wealth of knowledge in the industry itself. And he was able to answer any of my questions and concerns at any point in time. And also very methodical process of guiding me through every step of the way. I think that was a really good experience, I would say, for a first-time investor. And from what I recall, Rusty also started from scratch at the beginning. So I think he can relate with me. So I think that really makes the whole experience, which is quite special, I would say. And I could tell he was having my interest from the start, even until now. Yeah. After spending 4 years of lost time and a lot of missed opportunity, you kind of get to a point in your life where you feel like, okay, I got to take action, take charge. So I think it's, I don't know, maybe there's a sense of urgency from my end that I really want to quickly build that passive income. After all, I'm not getting any younger. And so I think that's why I decided to, okay, let's just engage a buyer's agent. And I started to have different kind of mindset towards the price that you have to pay. Yes, I agree, it's a big price, but I do see the value there whereby it would mitigate the risk of making a big mistakes because you have that professional there to really guide you through and also sharing their knowledge as well within the industry. Really valuable. Let's talk about why investing. Like I said, we want to create a passive income for retirement. I think I started to think a lot more about retirement and how I want to create passive income, and started to look at what my options. And I have always just loved the idea of having property, right? And what really made me doing it is after speaking to Rusty with the no obligation consultation, realized he's the right person to work with and trust that he'll be able to help me. And I think that it's time to really take the leap of faith, like they say, as cliche as they sound. And we know that for you to grow your passive income, that takes time with the whole compounding concept. So I knew that I don't want to waste any time anymore. And knowing that I found the right person to do this with, that's when I go, yep, I'm gonna jump and let's do it. It's the right time. So there were a few buyer's agents that I was considering. And obviously I spent time talking to each and every one of them. And from there, I just decided who I want to go with. So I think when I was talking to them, I was also figuring out as well what they specialize in, what's their approach, and in general, how they're like as a person, and just really trying to get a sense of their vibe. So I think it's a combination of all this before I decide who to go with. And of course, to look at their success stories as well. Yeah, I would say one thing that stood out with Get Rare is they were doing this very educated classes to just share the knowledge. I find that was very generous to educate. I think that was one of the main factors that stood out from other buyer's agents as well, whereby Get Rare coming very passionate to share the knowledge of Rusty's experience and perhaps any mistake he has made in the past. Yeah, so I think that really helps a lot for me to make a decision. Rusty himself came to this country as an immigrant as well, similar to me, working really hard to try and achieve your goals, like a financial freedom as well, which I can relate. And that's exactly what I was working towards as well. You know, working really hard on 9 to 5, you build up a good amount of money in your bank account to kickstart the investing journey. So I think it's that similar-ish kind of background. And also he started off ground up as well, fresh as an investor. The whole educated session that he shares, it goes for 1.5 hours. That's really generous. And I think also he was sharing how he built his portfolio to around about 15 property himself, which is very impressive. And there is a proven good track record over there, which really helps to build that credibility. So I think it's a mix of all these key points that I was willing to go with him. Yep. Started with kind of unsure around, like I said before, do I want to get an apartment or a landed property, whether to get a brand new or an existing one, and where should I be investing? Should I be investing in New South Wales, which is where I was based at that time, or go to other states as well? At the beginning of having that conversation with Rusty, it helps to build a lot more clarity. Rusty was really good at asking the right questions to really get me thinking what exactly I want to achieve, what goal I have in mind when I retire, how many properties I would like to have, kind of work backwards. So he shared it's important to have strategy, and it has to be a very personalized strategy as well, a tailored one. So I think that helps me to start thinking through that process. And then we went through sessions of fact finding to really look at where my position is, financial positions, and then to also look at where I want to be short-term, long-term. Going through all this process really helps me to clarify the type of properties I'm after and build that confidence from there to make a decisions as well when it comes to selecting the right property for me. It helps when you're making an informed decision, and what that means is you have a lot of information and up-to-date ones to facilitate that. So I think one of the things that Get Rare Property did well is they provide you a very comprehensive report. I remember that for the first property I've got, the report was around about 25 pages, which was like, whoa, very impressive. That was very comprehensive. not just the specific property, but also that area itself that they provide the research. Since then, they also introduce you to various professional, for example, like getting a building inspections report to in that area, which is the best kind of property manager or broker as well, to really have a very good team around you to support you as well. So all this information and professional to be ready there to support you. Given at that time it was my first time, so I didn't know what to expect. But what stood out to me was that the experience with each professional that I dealt with, it didn't felt like just a pure transaction. They were really there to build a relationship, have a really good rapport, and again, the service was very personalized. They always try to find out what are you trying to achieve and what's your goal, specifically talking about what your strategy is, and then they just try and support you to get there. So it's very much a relationship-oriented experience, which I would say that's very good. And I still keep in touch with most of them up until today. Yeah. The first property was, I would say the whole process was really pleasant and was just within, I would say, 4 months or so, 4 to 5 months. I contacted Rusty and say, hey, I'm ready to get on to the second property. And I remember Rusty was pleasantly surprised, but also very happy to know that I was ready so quickly for the second property. Yeah, that's how excited I was at that time. When I engaged Rusty to help me out with the first investment property, at that time I wasn't thinking that I would jump on having a second one that quickly. But I think as you're going through that process, you kind of realize it is possible, and buying a property is not that difficult. The whole process is not that daunting. It can be very pleasant, and most important is surrounding yourself with the right people that helps you along. So I would say it was a pleasant surprise, how easy the whole process was, hence why I was that quick to jump on the second one. If you asked me a year ago before I got my first property, I would say I don't think that was possible. After holding the first property for coming up to 2 years and the second property for around about 13 months now, I would say I'm very fortunate, whereby I have really good tenants, haven't had any issues, and I have property managers that are really diligent with their work as well. They check in with their tenant from time to time, making sure everything is okay. I have not had any issues with my tenants, and also the maintenance of the property has been great. There hasn't been any major issues as well. My experience has been a pleasant one, so I think it's very important to have group property managers. That's really, really, really important. And just in terms of how the property is actually performing, I've had review sessions with Rusty to look at it, and it's quite good, I would say, with the growth. It's certainly grown much better than what I anticipated to be, given the whole environment that we're in coming out post-COVID. I'm really, really pleased with the results so far. When I first started with Rusty, he shared it's all about where you want to be when you retire, working on having that end goal in mind, a clear one in mind, and then work backwards, right? When I think back about that conversation where we had, talking about how many properties that would enable me to achieve that financial freedom. So I always go back to that. Obviously, I've just started having 2 properties, and I'm aspired to have a couple more on my belt. And so I'm certainly considering to go for my 3rd property, hopefully soon. Also, this time around, we'll be doing it with Rusty because I'm a believer where I've started the journey with him and keen to continue. That's a commitment that I make with myself, hopefully soon. Yeah. What I would say if someone is on the fence or on the sideline is that don't be afraid to reach out to buyer's agents, take up the obligation-free consultation and have a chat with them. keep an open mind as well to hear how they can support you through that journey, and ask any questions that you have, and really see for yourself if you believe that they can help you and add value as well. If you are a first-time investor, which is to help you to kickstart the journey, or if you currently have a portfolio already, to see if they can help you to take you on to the next level with your journey as well. So I would say keep an open mind and don't be afraid to reach out and have that conversation. The turning around really comes with having that clarity in mind, and I think clarity comes from constantly asking the questions and come around with the answer to your questions. That helps with that clarity, and I think that comes from just having conversation with the professional. They could help you to resolve any sort of concerns that you have. And I must say, reading the book that Rusty wrote was really helpful with the transformation, changing my mindset with investing. It's really not such a daunting journey, and it doesn't have to be. I would say more confidence now, a lot more sure, and have more clarity now as well. See a lot more potential too.